Hello, YouTube. I'd first off just like to say, I'm sorry. I've been radio silent about this PoE League. I had so much content that I should have been making for this PoE League that I just didn't make. And from next week onward, I'll try to be better about this and actually making content and stuff. But until then, I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown about how the league has gone so far, what we've done on each day of the league, how each day has gone, as well as talk a bit about the current character that we have set up and what the plans of the character. Because I do think there's a lot of interesting things that we're doing with this character that are worth talking about. So this league was actually a bit of a weird one. I league started Exsanguinate Mines slash Reap Mines. And I league started on Elementalist. So you've probably heard of Elementalist like Fizz Dot with Exsanguinate, or you've heard of Trickster Exsanguinate Mines. I instead did the in-between of playing Elementalist Exsanguinate Mines, and the biggest benefit, I guess, of doing an Elementalist is one, Elementalist lets you transition to other builds that I enjoy playing. Like, I knew I would either play KB Elementalist this league, or I would play Penance Brand this league. And another thing is, I think early on, golems are a very, very powerful tool that give you access to just quite a lot of power in the character. And it was a really good league start. I'm gonna be honest with you, I had nothing planned. I went into this league start, day one. Let's see, is this the correct one? Okay, I don't have the build code, unfortunately. I went into this league start with nothing planned. I made a tree up for the campaign. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do Firestorm with the campaign, then do a heist to make some money, transition to Exsanguinate Mines, and like kind of just YOLO the endgame. And honestly, for a very low budget, that build would have been able to get into T17s very easily. So I had the character set up. I had like 10 million DPS day one of the league already. I was doing a quick like check and stuff, doing a quick bit of POBing. I made a build with like a bit over 20 million DPS, screen wide freeze, And my plan was to just day one of the league or day two of the league, just do boxes. Specifically containment boxes, but with the current prices, I don't even bother with containment because they're just, I don't know, overpriced. And spam out T17s. But then the plan got derailed. You see, a new mechanic that added this league is this concept called Foulborn Uniques. And to put it quite simply, they're really fucking good. Foulborn Uniques are very, 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 very powerful. And they make me so excited that instead of sticking to the plan, going to T17s, farming it like as soon as possible, I did a complete shift in my character plans and goals. And instead of being in T17s already, as soon as I finished my Atlas, instead I was busy saving up and setting up my Penance Brand character to do Penance Brand T17s instead. Now, I did reach T17s day 2 of the league. I probably just delayed it by a few hours by like doing the swap first. But the main item that caused me to do this is actually this Barracks Respite. So I bought this for 4 Divines, day 2 of the league. It's a tiny bit more expensive now, 21 Divines. This is a fairly common item though, so I don't know if it's going to go up much more. I think it's going to keep like going down slowly, like be around the 20 div range. And this item on Elementalist is beyond broken. So if you read the lines, it says ignited enemies you kill explode, dealing 5% of the damage, which cannot ignite. Shocked enemies you kill explode, dealing 5% of the life is lightning damage, which cannot shock. Okay? So the reason this has a line, cannot shock, cannot ignite, is to prevent chaining of your explosions. Because if your enemies explode for lightning damage, they shock the enemy and kill the enemy with the explode, that enemy is also going to explode. And it will create this infinite chain. But because we're playing Elementalist, we have access to Shaper of Storms and Shaper of Flames, which says all hits always ignite, all hits always shock, which means that the ignite portion, the fire damage portion, applies shock, and the shock portion applies Ignite, which means that we have access to what is referred to as Legacy Explode, which is just absurdly insane. We literally only need one item, and that's all the explode damage that we need. This item alone just gives us all the explode that we need within the build. You don't need any explode on wands, anything like that. This item is absurdly strong. That made me super excited to play Penance Brand, to get like, Legacy Explodes on it. But then the second thing that I went for with Penance Brand, which was really interesting to me, is this Foulborn unique. Foulborn, the Blue Nightmare. Yeah, in terms of lightning damage, is extra chaos damage. Passives that granting lightning resistance for all ally rares in radius also grant lightning damage converted to chaos. Now, if you see here, we have 5 tattoos, each of them giving 6% lightning res, and thus in turn giving 6% lightning damage converted to chaos. This is giving us 8 ores, which is 8% converted, and this is giving us 12 ores, which is 12% converted. So this jewel is giving us 50% of our lightning damage converted to chaos. But conveniently, there's a new ascendancy called Lycia, who's giving us another 50% converted. So, without needing to use Original Sin, we are converting 100% of our lightning damage to chaos, which then gives us access to Despair, which is very powerful, and it gives us access to the Balance of Terror, to get immune to curses and inflict Wither on hit when you cast Despair. Now, this is obviously an obscenely strong jewel, and it's still fairly cheap, which is quite nice. I bought mine with a perfect roll for 10 divines. And that was basically the 2 baseline tech ideas that I had for this build. I assembled it. I've been playing the league on and off. I'll be honest, this was not a league where I've just been, locked in grinding since day one. There's been days where I just kind of sat around and was like, I don't feel like playing today, so I just didn't play for the day, or I did like the bare minimum in a day. I just didn't really want to log in or do anything. I'm personally not super duper satisfied with like the end game of PoE currently, unfortunately, so finding the motivation to play and stuff has been a struggle, which is why I've been so slow with like getting my items and stuff this league and like making guides and stuff. But yesterday I did get my Mage Blood. I have my Helico ring. I basically have all the items in my build. I just need to replace a few things. So I thought I might as well just make my build guide and then tell people what we're doing. As well as explain all the ideas for the future. So here's the POV. Here's what we're doing, basically. Because we're doing only lightning damage, because remember, we're converting 100% of our lightning damage to chaos, but we're not converting cold or fire. Which means if we do cold damage or fire damage on ally reflect maps, we will kill ourselves. So to play around that, the only damage aura that I'm using is Wrath. And in the setup, I'm using Discipline for some energy shield, Wrath, and Purity of Lightning for max res. Now, on top of those, I'm also, on my body armor, going to use 3 maximum lightning res. And I have 1 singular jewel that's giving me max lightning res, which then allows me to reach 90 max res. So that was step 1 of like the Mage Blood, getting max res using Melding of the Flesh. Step 2 was obviously getting the full Chaos Convert. Now, an issue that I had in previous leagues is like, when we're mapping and stuff, we have power charges, we have frenzy hits and stuff. But then as soon as we get into like a boss, you don't have that anymore. And last league it didn't really matter because, mercenaries were just so extremely powerful that, oh, instead of having 1 billion damage, I only have 600 million, right? But in this league, when we have less damage, especially now when I'm on less gear, it does matter a bit. So the new tech that I'm using is Elegant of Hubris. So I do have a Caspiro 59,000. And this gives me access to Frenzy on hit and Power Charge on crit on the 2 like least point consuming nodes. Because we would either way path up here. So like I'm not really counting these points for anything. These pathing would just happen regardless. And with only going out of a wave of 3 points, we're getting Frenzy on hit and Power Charge on crit, which is really, really powerful. This does means we do lose our Lethal Pride that we usually have here, which also means that we don't have Endurance Charge on kill. And right now, I don't have a way to generate Endurance Charges in the bolt. Obviously, we have socket space, we can do that. But I like automation. I don't really like, having 50 trillion buttons to press. It's really annoying enough needing to like constantly press the spare when we're like mapping and stuff. And then for now, this is obviously a very low budget build. I have a lightning cluster here to just get some, lightning damage, leashes, energy shield. We have a first cluster here just for some good damage. And I'm actually going to replace this with a chaos cluster soon to get hinder on hit, because hinder on hit is more damage than the first cluster. So, the reason I made this video is because I kind of want to just keep playing and like finish everything and then, be like, oh, look, here's my insane build, blah, 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 blah. But I kind of wanted to give people an update. So here's my flask that I'm running at the moment. Nothing too insane. I do have CB immunity on the flask because I don't have it like as a corrupt yet, as well as bleeding immunity. But another reason is I don't really need curse immunity because of the sphere giving me curse immune, which is kind of a nice like bonus of the Bounce of Terror that I'm using. And the plan is quite simple. So obviously we're not using these items, we're going to transition off Power Charge sacking. So we're gonna drop Ralakesh, we're gonna drop Badge of the Brotherhood, we're gonna drop both of these for just like generic ass ones with +2 on both. And we're just gonna use Warlock boots, or maybe we'll use the Tailwind plus Onslaught boots from last league again. I'm not decided yet on that. I do kind of want to get more energy shield currently, but I might need to look into ways to scale our first DR, because a witch is kind of weak against first damage, and there are ways like to work around it, but you have to invest quite a lot into your first damage reduction, or like ways to like convert your first damage to like make it really powerful for a witch. That being said, though, oopsie. That being said, though, there's one interesting idea that I'm like bouncing between. So the obvious answer for what to do for the amulet is to just craft a focused amulet. I have a focused amulet base here already. I'm just gonna need to chaos spam this, get +1 all, +1 lightning, and then craft on brand attachment range or cast speed or whatever the fuck I want to craft on. And focus amulet is done. Easy as that, right? That is one option. Another option that I thought about that is very interesting is we could use Xerxes' Heart. Now, Xerxes' Heart has the downside of items and gems have 30% increased attribute requirements, which obviously, if you look at my attributes, that is gonna be very, very difficult to fit in. But we happen to be right next to Supreme Ostentation, which completely removes every and all attribute requirement from the game. So we could run that, and it has two benefits. The first benefit is gain soul each for 20 seconds using a Vol skill. We're using Discipline. You can quite simply just use Vol Discipline and just press the Vol Discipline every 20 seconds to have permanent Soul Eater, which is, that's going to be quite simple. That's a very good option. And the other bonus of it is this. Chaos damage can ignite, chill, and shock. So currently, in this build, we are basically forced into taking Shaper of Flames, Shaper of Winter, and Shaper of Storms, but we also want Leech of Primordial. Which means we're using up 2 sockets right now for a Forbidden Flame and Flesh combo. I have Shaper of Winter here because it was the cheapest to buy. Because I also want my Lycia points for the convert. But if my chaos damage can chill and shock and all those things, I suddenly don't need to have all 3 of these anymore. I can drop 1 of them or even 2 of them. Because when I do the explodes with my Falborn Ring, it's doing, light damage and chaos damage. Some of those damages is getting converted to chaos, which will then inflict the ignite, the chill, and the shock, etc. So that is one option that I think is very, very powerful to look at. And the big benefit of that is obviously then, I can get Cobalt Jewels, which are very powerful, instead of being forced into a Flame and Flesh combo. And that would let me get more energy shield, it would let me get more cast speed, more crit multi, all those beautiful things. The other option, so yeah, this is a very strong option. And obviously having Soul Eater is very, 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 very powerful. So if I just put this down here, and we add Vol Discipline. Okay, this is not working. Okay. I can show it, but Soul Eater is like almost double damage. Because for each stack of Soul Eater, you get 5% cast speed. And getting a whopping like 200% of cast speed and stuff is gonna mean that your brands are almost instantly gonna hit max pulses. And they're gonna keep maxing up max pulses. So that's an option is very, very strong. The downside of needing to use Supreme Ostentation, though, is if you look at my energy shield, I have 6,000 energy shield. I tick this, I have 4,800 energy shield. Int gives a lot of energy shield, so we do lose quite a bit of energy shield. And now, for the int nodes on the tree, it's not a big deal, because obviously we can just, you know, replace every single one of these nodes with 3% increased max energy shield. And that is going to give us more ES than int. But if you remember my build from last league, another way that I scaled int last league is that I actually had cluster jewels that were giving me 8 int. ES and 8 int. So losing that, as well as losing all my gear pieces, like my body armor with 58 int on it, is going to be a total, like, overall int loss for the build. Like, energy shield loss for the build. So it is a trade-off, but it is definitely something that I'm considering. And then the obvious answer is just going Focus Amulet, and then making like the 12-piece cluster jewels, and getting a ton of int and a ton of energy shield. I think playing with Soul Eater consistent Soul Eater could be fun though, so I might actually go for this option. We'll see. The boots, I mean, there's two options. You either get Warlock boots, get a ton of energy shield, or you get Onslaught Tailwind boots and go for movement speed. And then obviously both these weapons are gonna go. We don't want to use Void Battery, Malachi Loop. We don't want to use Ralakesh, we don't want to use Battle Brotherhood, we're just dropping everything. And instead of that, you know, we're just gonna generate frenzies through our Timeless Jewel, and yeah, that's good enough. I'm really satisfied with this build. It's interesting. I'm the type of person who, what I like to do in leagues is I like to do the thing that I'm comfortable with, and then do minor changes to it and like experiment with new things in the build. I'm not someone that like does a brand new build every time. Like I'm the type of person who plays Chain Lightning and Torchlight every single league, but I do a different Chain Lightning setup every time. Or like I try to experiment and find the best of the best, right? And well, I don't necessarily think this is going to be the best of the best or anything. I do think that this setup is going to be extremely powerful. It has a lot of benefits to it, and I'm excited to play with it. You can literally just take my build from last league, set up like the exact same way that I set up last league, copy paste it, and just have a great time as well. You're gonna have more damage though with the Chaos Resist. Like the Chaos setup does have more damage, but it has less defense. So there is a trade-off, and you probably do want the more tankiness, but I'm trying to think of ways that I can like creatively like make the full Chaos Convert setup also tankier. But regardless of whether or not I can figure that out, I just think doing a new thing with the new items is really fun. But let me do a Maven 510 my quickly. I wasn't really planning on doing a showcase or anything, but I kind of witnessed bosses while just doing like story stuff. Also, I've been hard stuck on 131 out of 132 now. I don't know what I'm supposed to do for this stupid like remembered stuff that you need to Maven witness. Because I literally, what do you call it? I literally have been in T17 since day 2 of the league. I don't do T16s to like progress and get my last point. Which I just think is fucking stupid. I really dislike that. I hope that next league they don't make us need to like Maven Witness to remember it in this way. Or like they give us an invite for it instead so I can just buy it. Like I know what to do, but like it's just annoying that you have to do so many maps to do it. But anyway, that's gonna be it from YouTube. I'll obviously be posting more bolt guides. I'm probably gonna be posting a progression POB in the near future to like show the budget setup that I used on day 2, as well as showing like a more endgame setup that's even more complete than this one of Mage Blood. And I think next league I'm gonna be starting Exact Mines again, and I'll definitely do a better job at like preparing a starter POB and having something that people can follow. I'm gonna try and also be faster next league. You know, I think I got my Mage Blood day 4. Like that's very slow for someone who's been in T16s for so long. Obviously, I spent a lot of my currency on other things. Like, you know, I had One with Prophet first. I had Helico Ring first. I made these gloves first with the chill. But still, it's been a good league though. I hope you guys enjoy. Bye, YouTube. Bye bye.